Family disputes can make us feel isolated and vulnerable. Maybe you're going through a divorce or a legal dispute about your kids. Perhaps you've spent hours on Google or have even posted anonymously on Facebook to see what others have to say. But are you getting the actual information and support that you're looking for? Our podcast, Legal Lounge, aims to dispel misinformation and downright bad legal information to empower anyone with questions about their family, their children, their finances, their marriage, and the law. As a team focused exclusively on family law matters, we aim to help listeners not only with the information they need, but also with the hope that their situation has a solution. Short disclaimer, please note this podcast is for educational purposes only, and the information should not be relied upon as legal advice or for legal purposes. Welcome back to the Legal Lounge. I'm excited to have one of our attorneys with Modern Legal here today. She is also a social worker. So I preface that because she's smarter than me is what I like to joke about in the office with all these higher degrees. She's also licensed not only in North Carolina, but as well as South Carolina. It is Tiffany Byrd with Modern Legal joining me today.
Hey, good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, glad to have you back on. I know you look forward to these days on the podcast.
I do. I like kind of sharing information. That's the social worker in me.
Yeah.
So I want everybody to have as much information as they can.
Yeah. So I figured we'd actually have a fun activity today where literally just moments ago, I went onto social media and went to some of those groups online that are for parents, and some individuals post questions in these groups. And a lot of these posts do involve children, child custody disputes, and asking at times for legal advice.
Yeah.
So let me first state, I admire the strength that individuals have to even go to any resource to say, hey, I have an issue and I have a question.
Absolutely.
And so I will note when we joke about some of these questions, it's not a dig to the person who's posted this question, because they are in a dire need, right? Especially if it's involving your children.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine. And it could be that you have limited financial resources. So we want to give our due regard and nod to them.
Right. Absolutely.
My frustration honestly comes more so in the comments box and the responses to the questions, because it seems like there are a lot of quote unquote attorneys out there that are not attorneys because they would know not to give legal advice on a social media platform.
Yeah.
But then I can tell also that the answers are, unless it says go talk to an attorney,
right,
are sometimes completely wrong.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's going to be based off of their own understanding, which is going to be colored by a lot of things, or it's based off of the situation that they had. And in family law, one situation is never going to be exactly the same as another.
Yep.
So that's the danger that you get in going to outside sources that do not deal in this day in, day out.
Yep. And when we say day in, day out, it's, we work in front of a lot of judges that we see day in, day out. We work with a lot of other third parties, whether that's a therapist or a guidance counselor at school or, any other professional that influences the well-being of the child.
Teachers are extremely important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's things that we can bring into a courtroom or cannot.
Yes.
And so we caution individuals on seeking legal advice on these platforms.
Absolutely.
So without further ado, I'm gonna start us with a doozy.
See what the questions are. Okay.
All right. So the post, very recent post, says, quote, I have been a stay-at-home mom for a long time. We have 2 children. My husband is a narcissist with anger management issues, but no physical abuse, just a lot of emotional and mental abuse. I don't know how much longer I can go on like this. My biggest reason I haven't left yet is because of my children. I will not share custody because I do not trust him or his family with the children for joint custody cases. I've learned from another mom that there is no way the courts will give me full custody. Even in physical abuse cases, they still grant dad his rights. Is this the case? Any experiences or information will be helpful.
That is a loaded question. And it's definitely one that we get a lot. I think the first thing to know is that the court is coming from the position that the child is going to be best served if they have a relationship with both parents. How they have that relationship with both parents is going to depend on the circumstances of the parents.
Yeah.
So, for example, in that question, the writer or the poster mentioned that dad has some anger issues that she's got some concerns about. Okay, well, maybe we're able to put in certain parameters that safeguard the children from those concerns,
Yeah.
but still allow dad to have some kind of contact with the child or the children, because that's what the court's going to try and do.
Yep. And that contact, and let's preface this, that contact does not mean parenting time alone with the kids necessarily.
Right. It may not mean that.
It could be that a court will order anger management classes, that they actually have to complete a course. And when I say anger management classes, I'm not talking the one-off or two-offs on a long weekend. I'm talking, there are courses
several
that
weeks long.
several weeks, and you actually get a certificate that you have to provide to the court, and the courts will monitor the situation.
Absolutely.
And because let me back up for a second. Judges are not going to put children in dangerous situations.
No.
They're not. They're just not. But you can't just say, oh, the children will be in a dangerous situation without any evidence of danger being posed directly on the children.
Exactly. And having very specific information about what that danger is.
Yeah.
Saying danger in a general sense, the court doesn't have the ability to do what you're going to ask it to do.
Yeah.
You've got to give them very specific instances and circumstances that are causing the danger to the child.
And let's also say this, because she did note it in the post that the abuse has not been physical, it's been mental and emotional. Mental and emotional abuse is still a factor for a judge to consider to allow parenting time.
Absolutely.
So we still have some ways to go about domestic violence and child abuse really being treated as it should be in a court system. But we already have gotten to the point where judges will hear about mental and emotional abuse because especially when children are young, right? And I say young meaning any age prior to 18, they are in a developmental state. And we want to make sure that they are in an emotionally mature or at least stable environment for their own well-being.
Absolutely. So I don't want people to be discouraged. And I hate to say that because I'm glad that it's not physical, but it's not diminishing the type of experiences that these children are having. Yeah. But we need to be a little bit more specific about what one parent is seeing that lets them know that their child is not okay.
Yeah.
And be able to articulate that because that's what the judge needs to know.
Yeah. And I guess to give some specific examples for our listeners, I've had the case where a child was potty trained, definitely by the age of 4 or 5. Then around the age 6 or 7, they start regressing.
Right.
And they start not being able to, keep themselves until they go to the restroom. And so it's examples like that. Or I had another case where the child consistently would run to the closet and hide under clothes. And my client didn't really understand until they brought the child to a psychologist. And it was because that's where the child felt safe.
Right.
And that's not natural. That's not, okay.
Right.
And again, it could mean that there's no physical abuse, but those are indications, actual specific indications that this child is just not doing well.
Exactly.
And we have to get to the bottom of that.
Right. And so now the court has the ability to say, okay, just giving, full access to the child to both parents is not going to be appropriate. I see that there are some things going on. So what are some other safeguards or parameters that we need to put on one or both parents' time to make sure that this child is able to continue to grow and thrive the way that they need to.
Yeah. And going a step further, especially if it's a temporary custody order, a judge can also order that the child go to therapy.
Absolutely.
Or be involved, or the parents do some type of co-parenting coaching or therapy as well.
Which, ordered or not, I think everybody needs therapy. I think it's great for everybody.
There's that.
But but it is good to know that if there are some impediments to getting the child into that type of service, if the judge steps in and says, well, this is what has to happen, then that impediment should be removed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And judges will,
and this is kind of why sometimes, and I get it, we want to have a timely resolution of custody cases, but especially in these very unique circumstances where children are displaying these concerning behaviors, these concerning reactions to, say, a split parent household, that judges will give more time. Like judges will say, okay, we're not going to have a permanent child custody trial because we're awaiting on a psychological evaluation or a parental fitness evaluation.
Right.
And so if that means it takes a year to go through the process of trying to rehabilitate the child, then it's going to take a year
it takes.
at least.
Children need what they need, and they're not going to really go on anybody's specific timeline, and we need to give them space for that. But I also really encourage families in general to get involved with a therapist when they're going through this process, because it's natural for you to have concerns about how this is going to impact your child.
Yeah.
Having somebody who is trained to look at situations and let you know when things are more concerning or less concerning, to have that person sit across from you and say, I see what you're talking about. I understand why you're concerned. Please know that these are some of the normal reactions to things like what you're going through, and your child is going to be okay. We just need to give them time and space to adjust to what's happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that can just greatly reduce the anxieties that families and parents are going through and feeling when they're put in this situation.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I read a post the other day. Obviously, it's online, so it quote unquote has to be true. But I thought there was some truth to it. And the post was about parenting and children's reactions. And we see this in our line of work where one of the parents, it could be our client, will say, hey, I don't want to force the child over to the other parent because they start crying, they start getting upset. It becomes very tumultuous. And what the post was talking about is when a child seems to be okay in class, seems to be okay with grandma, but then all of a sudden comes home and is just crying to you. That's actually an indication that the child feels emotionally safe with you. So they're able to unload and they're able to release all the stressors that maybe they've been like holding up tight just to get through the day. And in fact, that is a healthy indication that the child can share anything with you.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And I think it's good to always foster that, but then it's also good to, in those circumstances when, they are getting some pushback about the exchanges, because we do have to deal with that very often. It's important to encourage them to still try and let them know that, things are going to be okay. This is different. Like, they never had to be exchanged before. Why do I have to leave mom's side or dad's side? Why can't we just all be here? Like, they're still adjusting to some of those things. Just keep in mind that may be part of what's happening.
And thus, it's not necessarily child abuse.
Correct. Right. Like, you're not abusing your child because you're telling them, listen, I understand you may not want to do this right now, but we're going to do this and I will see you later. We'll talk in a little bit. Like, whatever it is that kind of helps them along in that. But
and kind of to echo that, I've heard it said by at least more than one judge that, children sometimes have a rough day on their first day of school. And yet we have to encourage them.
To school.
And they still...
You're going to go to school. I don't want to go to sleep. I don't want to go to sleep now. I hear that, and we're still going to bed. So there are things that kids have to do that they don't like to do or they don't want to do. And we still hopefully make them do those things.
Because it happens. We all do things that we don't want to do.
Like, look, I don't want to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, but here we are. So
There's no conversation more romantic than discussing a prenup with your partner, right? Okay, maybe the song for your first dance does a bit more in the romance department. Speaking of emotions, though, the prenup is a very legal document that everyone has a very emotional reaction to. Many people avoid the prenup conversation because they feel it is an indication that the marriage will fail. But here's the truth. Half of all marriages already fail, regardless of whether the spouses had the prenup conversation or not. If you or someone you care about is getting married, would knowing what marriage involves legally be important? What about having the difficult conversations surrounding finances, career aspirations, and pursuing parenthood prior to the wedding date? If you are looking to build a solid foundation for your marriage, or you want the same for someone you care about, we are here to help you learn more about prenups from a position of knowledge, not emotion. To learn more about family law from a legal professional, book a consultation with a member of the Modern Legal team by visiting our website, emailing us, or calling us at 704-286-6302. Check out the information about Modern Legal services at modernlegalnc.com.
All right, so I'm gonna grab another question. If I wanted to separate from my husband with no kids in common, what would be my first step? I don't work as I take care of my elderly parent. My kids are grown. His is 15. We've been together since his kid was 3. I already know I'll probably never see my bonus kid again. What can I do?
Well, that just breaks my heart from a human perspective, because from the legal side of things, it's going to be very hard to assert any type of claim to continue this relationship that you've clearly fostered with your bonus child.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the main question that was asked was, what's the first step?
Yeah.
I think it's really kind of taking a step back and just saying, okay, in that reality, like, am I going to be okay?
Yeah.
And then how do I deal with that part?
Yeah.
And then I always encourage people, unless your safety is at risk, do not make this decision at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Like, make sure that you're planning. So if we are going to separate, are there things that I want to take with me? Have we talked about the fact that we want to separate, or is this going to be a little bit more of a surprise? Because maybe if you've talked about it, maybe there's some kind of way that we can come to an agreement that I still have a relationship with my bonus child.
Yeah.
I think those are some things that I would initially want to kind of work through.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess to being the voice of how the law works, which is not always fun to express to our clients, it's unless you've adopted the kid and gone through that process, which we should have a podcast episode just on that.
Adoption. Yeah.
Unfortunately, you do not automatically have custodial rights equal to the biological parent.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you're forever cut out of that child's life, but to the author's credit, I think, and I believe this is she recognizes the reality that she will likely
lose that relationship.
Yeah. Or at least lose that time.
Yes.
And lose any type of ability to be regularly involved with the child.
Yeah.
Granted, the child is 15. So
Right. So hopefully, at 15, there's definitely some more autonomy that's hopefully in place, and maybe that child's autonomy would be respected if they seek out the author on their own and continue that relationship. I would hope that the other parent or parents would respect that and allow that to continue.
Yeah. And what I tend to lean on in these situations as well is, isn't it better to have a child have more love than less?
Exactly.
And it really comes down to that reality that at the end of the day, yes, this child probably has 2 biological parents and they have some shared custody arrangement. And stepmom in this circumstance has been a support for, 12 years? Like,
it's a long time.
That's a very long time. And those bonds, regardless of the legal realities, those bonds can't just be cut off because 2 parties no longer have a romantic relationship, right?
Like, those things don't disappear. Those 12 years do not go away as if they never happened.
Yeah.
And for that child, I think that it's a testament to what that relationship is like for them to have been around for that long, and even for the author to describe that child as a bonus child. So it just kind of adds to the fact that, this person is accepting this child as their own, whether that be the blood reality or not.
Yeah, exactly. So those are things to think about.
Yeah.
And I'll note on the adoption piece again, though, is that if you are in a step parent position and you have the opportunity to adopt, we do encourage that. And it's not solely because we do family law and it's to protect any type of custodial claims.
Yeah.
But also there's estate rights that attach. And then there's just the, legal memorialization of the
This
relationship.
relationship that you have. Exactly. So if for nothing else, like even if nothing else got applied, right? Just the ability to say that we have formally recognized what you and I have been living day in and day out.
In that parent-child relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. It's a hard one,
I
but a good
know.
one.
I hate when there aren't, great options to choose from in circumstances.
And it's just
like,
another example of the limitations of the law.
Yeah.
Because the law is looking at things from like a outside perspective in, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Two parties have a biological child together. They should be
Yeah.
the ones who make the decisions for said child.
Right.
But on the flip side, I mean, the stepmom clearly loves this child to go so far as to post something online and be like, hey,
What can I do? Is there anything that I haven't thought of?
yeah.
What options do I have? Maybe I'm wrong in what
Yeah.
I think the options are.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, she's right, but we are also sending her well wishes
Yes.
because hopefully
Yeah.
at the end of the day she can work things out. And if nothing else, I mean, once the child is 18, there's definitely no influence really by either parent.
No.
Because an 18-year-old can decide who they associate with.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So here's another one. Have any mamas had any luck moving out of state with your minor children? Ex and I have been divorced 2 years. We don't have a legal custody agreement as of now, but have in writing a plan we came up with when we separated. Overall, we are civil. However, neither one of us has family here, and my family up north supports me and our children tremendously. 2 out of the 3 children were born up north, and I want nothing more than to go back home. I just know he wouldn't agree between the 2 of us. Do I have any chance that I could get court's permission to move home?
Court permission to move with children is difficult. Like that's like
I know.
I don't know of another way to put that, and it's extremely frustrating because there are a lot of good reasons, I will say, that people want to do those things. Like, for example, if nobody's here but all of your support is someplace else, it's hard raising children.
Yeah.
So let's get as much support as we can, and oftentimes it does require some type of movement. If the other parent is not on board, it does make things more challenging. I do think there's an interesting piece because they don't have a formal agreement yet, which means from the court perspective, they're not involved yet. So there's nothing that says that you can't leave with the children. But then you start getting into the weeds a little bit.
Yes.
Because if you left, for example, and then he got upset, he could very well file something where you left from, and then you would be required to come back and answer these questions and have this discussion there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it becomes very dicey.
Yeah. It's a hard conversation because both parents have been raising these kids.
Yes.
And when you present the option of one parent moving, I like to say it to my clients, I'm like, you can move.
Right. The children.
That's a different question.
Correct. This is
So-
a 2-part question.
And especially if things have been civil and you have been following a parenting arrangement for 2 years and
Correct.
it's been both parents involved, a court is going to say, okay, well, the children are used to this for 2 years. Why are you going
Gonna
to
move this and change this on them now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Yes, it is legally possible to have the court say yes.
Yes.
In my experience, and you can talk about yours, but it has been very rare that they have said yes.
Yeah. I honestly can't even think of a case where the court actually said yes, other than signing a consent order that allowed it because the parties agreed to it.
Yeah. I can't think of one either, actually.
So again, legally it's possible.
Right.
We just don't see judges doing it. And part of it is, right, if the children are in a school, if they have a group of friends, they have their treating pediatrician, they have their dentist, they may have their mental health professional, they may have their favorite park, their favorite restaurant, right? These are all things that are literally the world to the child.
Right.
And I get it, especially the mom in this
Yes.
situation. I get it, mom. You need more support. You want to be closer to family. Hell, that was where 2 out of the 3 kids were born, right?
Exactly.
But at least for the past 2 years, and 2 years is a lot for a child. For the past 2 years, this is their world.
Yeah.
And judges in these circumstances care more about the kids than about you or the other parent. They just do.
Oh, I've said for years, judges are the grandparents. I don't know about you, but my grandmother did not care about what my mom had to say about just about anything. If she's like, well, what do the children want? Well, then that's what they're going to get, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where the grandparents' focus is, and that's exactly what the judges are like.
Yeah.
They don't care if they make mom or dad mad.
Yeah.
Not really their concern. They're looking at the kids. What's good for the kids? What's stabilizing for the kids? Are they doing well where they are?
Yep.
Why would I disrupt that?
Yep.
Right? They want to keep things as stable and as consistent as possible.
Yep.
And so when you're coming in and asking them to disrupt that,
Yep.
you have a harder hill to climb.
Yep. And again, that's not because we think the children should be quote unquote taken away from mom. Again, mom can move. It's more of to maintain what the children have been used to. It could be that they are primarily with dad.
Right.
Let me also state, if this were a case that went to court and say mom did move up north and the father did stay here in North Carolina.
Right.
I'm just presuming
That
it's North Carolina.
it's North Carolina,
right?
yeah.
That doesn't mean mom's not going to get time. So let's also say that. Mom will get time.
Absolutely.
However, we have to look at the reality of circumstance. Children have to be at school every day.
Correct.
Right. Children may have some long weekends to travel up north. Now, when she says up north, I don't know
How far north
far
we're
that is,
talking.
right? Is it 4 to 6 hours or is it 13 to 15 hours, right? Is it an easy flight? Are there the financial resources
To be able to fly them regularly.
Exactly.
Or are we talking about car rides
Yep.
every however often?
Yep.
Like those things matter. Those things come into play when we start looking at, well, what would the custody arrangement look like if one parent did live in another state?
Yeah. And look, I've had the cases where I actually had a case just recently closed where the parties agreed that mom could move back to California with the kids.
Okay.
And father made it work. He had a long weekend every other week and split holidays
Oh my.
with the kids. He traveled for work too, so he's used to basically living on airplanes.
Yeah.
But he flew
Okay.
back and forth
Okay.
until all of the kids aged out. So again, I'm not saying
Got a
it's
lot of flying
impossible.
miles. My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know how he slept, but there's that.
On the plane, I'm assuming.
It has to be on the plane. And we're not even getting into the cost, right?
No.
Because a cross-country flight
that's
is
a very different
notably
conversation.
expensive as well.
Yeah.
And so these are all things to think about. One thing I have seen, especially when, the parents are at least an hour or two apart, is you'll have more so the school year parent, and then you'll have like the summer break parent.
Summer parent. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe the mom up north, maybe she's looking at a full summer, which may be nice, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, I would love to be the parent where we like party, go to the beach. I don't have to worry about homework getting done.
Yeah.
On the flip side, it's like, okay, but if you don't trust father to do all the
All
school
of the
parent
day
stuff.
in, day out type of things.
Yeah.
Then we're like, okay, well, those are decisions that have to be made. And ultimately, that's what this comes down to. There are not perfect solutions. So both sides have to make decisions. And if we can't come to terms on what those decisions are, then those decisions are going to get made by the judge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And judges are bound within the law about certain decisions. And,
Right.
and I'll say it this way. Judges do not want to make the finer decisions about your child, right?
No.
Like the judge is not going to necessarily say, hey, that school is better than the other school for your kid
Right.
that the judge has never met, right?
Correct.
Rather, they'll look at the circumstances and they'll say, okay, well, mom's actually a middle school teacher. She has some expertise in the education department. So let's give mom final decision-making authority when it comes to education. If a judge even wants to do that and not otherwise do it
And not
jointly.
just say joint, like the two of you need to make that decision together as parents.
Yeah. So those are just different things to think about when you are dealing with a custody case in general.
Period.
But especially if there is going to be this distance between the homes of the parents.
If there's a chance that there's going to be a significant distance between the two parents or the two households, and there are a lot more logistical things that need to be thought of and considered.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, Tiffany, our last question for the day. She's turning in her seat already.
I don't know.
All right. Does anyone know of any lawyers doing pro bono or who would for a child custody case, or of any cheap lawyers, or how to get help with legal aid for a child custody matter?
Oh, jeez. You would do that last.
I know. I guess I'll start out with the reality of you have the right to an attorney if your liberty is at threat, meaning you steal a TV from Best Buy, you may spend a night in jail, you have the right to an attorney to defend you. Yep. You are facing a case where you are having an issue about parenting time and child custody issues. Unfortunately, our judicial system does not allow for the right of an attorney.
Right.
And it's sad. And I'm not saying that's how it should be.
No.
I'm not a legislator. I didn't make this law. I'm rather just a family law attorney.
Just following it.
This is
what I'm stuck with.
This is reality.
Yeah. Okay. So to kind of piggyback off of that, because you are not obligated to request an attorney for that, if you choose to get an attorney, it is completely based on whatever it is that you can afford. I wish that there were more options available that afforded either low bono or pro bono options that could help pay for attorneys to assist in those circumstances. Unfortunately, right now, there aren't very many. Legal aid does exist, but child custody cases in particular are quite expensive because of the time that it takes to rightfully so advocate for your rights as it pertains to your child. And because they are so emotionally charged, they do tend to be the longer cases.
Yep.
And so finding cost-effective ways to be represented it's just difficult. That is the reality of it.
Yeah.
I know at least with our firm, take advantage of the consults.
Yeah.
Like come in, sit with one of our attorneys, find out what the process is like.
Yep.
What type of information you need to be able to show the judge. Like, mine us for information.
Yes.
Look at our website, look at blogs, like, get all the information for free or for a low cost that you can.
Yeah.
And then figure out how to advocate for yourself, because sometimes that's going to be the only thing that you're really able to do.
And I'm going to kind of exemplify the advocating for yourself point, because you get what you pay for.
Yes.
And so I do caution individuals of finding the quote unquote cheap attorney, right, that maybe doesn't have much child custody experience or is not, a family law attorney through and through. And suddenly a parent is caught up with this attorney thinking everything is going correctly. And it's not.
Yeah.
And things fall through the cracks. Or you have an emergency situation and the attorney just doesn't know how to deal with it because they just aren't, they don't have the experience, or they're not at a law firm that can handle those types of child custody matters. And so, you really want to always be an advocate for yourself when it comes to also finding an advocate for you and your children.
Yeah.
And yes, it could be that we as a community, whether that be through consultations, we are fortunate here in the Mecklenburg County area to have the self-serve center at the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. And so there's a number of resources there, print materials that you can access there. They also try to schedule possibly a 15, maybe 30-minute free consult through the self-serve center.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that part.
They do that. The only issue is everything's volunteer, and they don't have many volunteer family law attorneys.
Okay.
So they have a lot of like landlord-tenant issues and other issues, but or you can contact the North Carolina State Bar. There's the North Carolina Bar Referral Service, and that one does have a cost with the consultation, but it's generally lower. Yeah, it's generally lower than the attorneys in your area. On the flip side, it's an investment to hire an attorney. And so it really is up to you, the parent, on how much you want to invest in making sure you assert your legal rights for the protection of your children and to have your children, because you're dealing with child custody issues. Yeah.
So I think it is something that you have to think through. Absolutely. I think looking into almost treating it like a budget option, a budget item. Okay, how long can I sustain X amount? Whatever that is, whatever your reality is about that, okay, fine. What's the best use that I can get for that amount of money and that amount of time? And let's see how far it can get me. And maybe you start approaching it like that.
Yeah. I mean, I had a client one time, I can still think of her to today, where she said, I have X amount of money, that's it. That's my pot. That's what I have in savings. That's it. I want to fight tooth and nail for my child, but I don't have that much money. And she just didn't. And let alone there was domestic violence involved, and she was an immigrant. So everything was just compounded. But at the end of the day, we thought the best use of her financial resources was to retain me as her attorney, to fight for primary child custody, as well as to try to get child support. And we were actually able to get a permanent custody order giving her primary custody and a temporary child support and post-separation support order. Could not get her all the way through, but I got her the big pieces. I got her started. Now, I will say we did not issue discovery. We did not issue subpoenas. Why? Because that just takes more attorney time. Thus, it would have increased her attorney's fees bill. But on the flip side, we were able to efficiently utilize the resources she had. And it was interesting because, of course, we closed the case. We withdrew once she couldn't afford her services anymore. But a number of months later, I remember my paralegal happened to run into her, and she happened to be exiting the courthouse from the permanent alimony and child support trial. And apparently, basically, the judge
just
took the temporary stuff, made it permanent. And she's like, and through the whole process of my representation of her, she learned the tools, and I kind of trained her in a way to represent herself. So at that final trial, she kicked it out of the park. And so, I mean, she was so happy. You know, we weren't her attorneys at that point, but she was giving my paralegal a hug, and she sent her regards. And it's things like that where, yes, if you can find some type of funds to make at least a small investment, you'd be surprised how far it can go with the right family law attorney.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, you know, instances like that just kind of reinvigorate when we do come across the cases where we feel like we haven't been able to do as much as we wanted to. But being able to be part of that person's story that got her from where she was to where she ended up ultimately being, I think, is one of the things that kind of keeps me going in particular. But
I agree. I mean, look, I wish we had a system where every custody case and every parent had an attorney to stand next to them, because I can't think of a more important time and space where knowing your legal rights is important. But on the flip side, you know, we do have resources out there. As a family law attorney, I do want to work with every single person who comes into our office. I really do. But we have to just face the reality of the system that we're in. So slight, you know, additional nugget here. Obviously, we're on the Legal Lounge podcast. So if you are dealing with a child custody dispute and you just don't have resources for an attorney, please search our other podcasts and videos. check out our social media pages, check out our resources page on our website.
Absolutely.
Because our attorneys write blogs on a regular basis, a lot of them having to do with child custody, and use those resources to empower you.
Mind them. Get as much as you can from all of the reputable sources that you can. And I do say reputable because it is important that you have accurate information. So make sure that you are getting it from sources that this is the area that they work in.
Yeah. And bringing it full circle, maybe that's not social media.
Maybe not. I love that that is a source of support.
Yes.
But take that as one piece and then go to another section that maybe has a little bit more nuanced information that can help you even further.
Well, this was a wonderful conversation. Tiffany, thank you for joining us back here on the Legal Lounge.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our discussion. To learn more about me and the Modern Legal team, go to our website, modernlegalnc.com, or check out the links in our show notes to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also call us at 704-286-6302. If you have been intrigued by the conversation and would like us to continue our discussions, please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. See you next time.